Have you ever seen a thumbnail with the word game changer on the title and some douche doing a face like this? And you wanted to pour bleach through your screen and hope that it seeped into his eyes? That's not how life works, unfortunately.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So today let's talk about actual game changers. I went through history and made a list of actual things that have like, holy shit, that changed everything. No, your little tube light isn't a game changer. It didn't change any games. It just lit your stupid face from the back and created a mid shadow around your nose to highlight your zits. We're on the Nikon Z6 III, by the way, Canon EF 24mm 1.4 with a Fringer adapter, window lighting to head back to our roots. So today we talk about the game changer of all game changers, the first game changer. That was the Canon 5D Mark II. It was the first camera that actually did full frame HD video, full HD for those of us in the F. But it was the first time your douche tuber ass could take a fast prime Tony 1.4 and go film something. It was super shaky, there was zero autofocus in it, but it was like, look at me, a blurry background, bro. And so like the cinematic video was born, where you just like panning, just side rant and then I'll leave. Some dick was reviewing the GoPro 13 or the Action 5, I forget, and he literally panned across a leaf like he was on a red Komodo or something. I was like, what are you doing? Oh my God, it's the worst shot I've ever seen in my life. I ended myself. This is a clone. I'm an AI clone now. That old me is gone. He's dead. But before the Canon 5D II, what were you doing for video? The little flip cam thing? Like nothing existed until that, and it was like, holy shit, our lives are different forever. And then it took a long ass time. Game changers don't just come out every year even. The Canon 70D, I'm throwing that out there for nomination. Dual pixel autofocus flippy screen. It was like the first thing of our time to do that, I think. Don't quote me on that. There could have been a Sony out there somewhere, but most of Sony's didn't have the flippy screen yet. They took a long ass time to catch up to that little hinge technology. But the 70D, like Casey Neistat started, super heavy thing, but wide angle, stabilized lens, flippy screen, autofocus. It's like, holy shit, dual pixel autofocus back when it was good in the DSLRs. I said that weird. The Canon C100 Mark II, that dual pixel, that is real pixel autofocus. The newest ones on the mirrorless, they jump and skip away. You turn your head, it's gone. That's not dual pixel autofocus anymore. I didn't change who I am. I'm still a human boy. I just looked that way. You don't have to, oh my God, what's he looking at? Don't focus on the thing I was gonna look at. Canon dual pixel dick. These are in no particular order. I just started thinking of cameras, going through each company, like what really changed things. We all knew this was gonna happen. The Sony X3000. The GoPros existed, but you suck. You're a fisheye lens, you had terrible stabe, and then all of a sudden the X3000 comes out. You have Boss optical stabe that works in low light, doesn't matter the light. It was a 17mm rectilinear lens, wasn't even fisheye, everything was straight and good. And that it wasn't goofy wide, and then it had a low megapixel sensor, it was good in low light, giant pixels. It was like the best thing ever, man. Mic jack in the body. It still hasn't been beaten to this day. It's sickening. Sickening. I almost bought an RX0 Mark II just to laugh at myself and pretend that was the upgrade. It was the downgrade version of the X3000. We all know that. That thing changed the game. Not many people even latched onto it. I saw it immediately. I was like, that would be amazing for vlogging. No one I knew was doing that. Not one channel. I didn't know about Baldwin bankrupt guy who travels. I didn't know about him. I was just like, X3000, that should be the best vlogging cam. I had a Canon G7X. I was like, no way. I sold that, got that, boom. Thailand, boom. Thanks for updating that lineup. Never, Sony. You suck. Sony RX100? That was a game changer. I was just getting into cameras at this time, and that was like a huge deal to have a 1-inch sensor in a tiny point-and-shoot body. They were always tiny sensors, and then all of a sudden, Sony's like, oh my God. I remember DP Review was like, it's a 1-inch sensor. I was like, what the hell's that? What's a sensor? I don't even know what that is. It's bigger. I just still didn't appreciate it then. Only now do I. Full frame, Nikon, technology. I forget why that camera was bullshit, but the Canon G7X came out, copied that, and then it was like, whoa, that's Canon's version of the Game Changer. Even though it was stolen technology, like a diamond heist, they used it, and it was Canon dual pixel autofocus. No, it wasn't at all, but you could tap on your face and lock it. Flippy screen. Some stave that sucked. Game changer. Panasonic GH4, you can't argue it. It came out, I don't know what was around at that time, but it started doing 4K 60 10-bit, and people were blown away. They were like, really? Whoa, amazing autofocus. Contrast detect. It was good. Pulsed a little in the background, but you couldn't see it.
Panasonic autofocus, pulsing in the background, hope no one notices. I think they'll fix it in a firmware made by a blind werewolf in his underwear.
But everybody started filming with that. I didn't. When I came around, it was like the G85 was kind of better than the GH4 in a lot of ways. It had IBIS, and it was just smaller and cheaper, and that's the route I took. But like everybody and their grandmother had a GH4 because it was so, the specs, so cinematic. It was good for its time. You couldn't sell one for a hot dog now, but it's good. Fuji X-T4. It's still relevant today. It was the first Fuji camera that really did the flippy screen. It was like a YouTuber's version. You had all your film sims, but it was 10-bit. You're doing 4K 60, HD 240. You're leading the industry in a lot of ways. Autofocus somewhat reliable unless you turned your head once. Don't ever do it. That's on you. That's your fault. Fuji colors in that body, vintage look, the dials that were useless to most of us. But hot damn, that was a game changer. And I got one. Flat Earth Santa, he sent it right over. He's like, you want one, buddy? Where the hell is he? Lately. Where'd you go? I don't even see him commenting anymore. Making fun of me. You should be down there. Tell me you're still alive. But these were like game-changing moments. Like, oh, Fuji finally has an option for us YouTubers, and we can get this nice cinematic color. It's beautiful. And then the 70 to 300 lens. A bit of a game changer, that thing. It was just so tiny. And then with Fuji's crops, because it was like 18% 4K 60 crop and then 29% HD 240, that 300 with your APS-C crop became 450 and then 5, and you were like 700 mil, and it was like tiny little lens and beautiful footage. It's like, that's game-changing territory. Nikon P900 or 9000, don't quote me on that. That long one, 2000 millimeter lens. That was a game changer. That's when all the flat earthers came out and they were like, well, look at that, it is flat. See the horizon, the ship comes back when you zoom in. You thought it disappeared, but what is our world? Who is God? Am I a boy or a man? All these questions were answered in the P900. That thing zoomed. It sucks. I would never get one. I wouldn't even toss it in my garbage can. Be afraid it would catch fire or something. The Sony a7S III. My God. You have to know that Sony was not even doing 4K 60. Everyone was like, what the hell is going on? The GH4 is doing 4K 60 10-bit. Give us something in a crop or anything. Sony had nothing but 4K 30 8-bit in a crop, by the way. And then we were begging for 4K 60, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was an explosion, an elf died, and then someone announced, like, look, A7S III in a rock, in a hole. And it was like 4K 120, 10-bit, full frame, slight crop, 10%, that's nothing. With a flippy screen, perfect autofocus, IBIS, but active stave now, even smoother electronic. What the hell happened? The viewfinder for wildlife. What? New color science. That thing changed everything. We've seen that nobody's catching up to it still. We still have everything since then. There's no games being changed. It's just people joining the game. There's player one, which was Sony a7S III, and then there's people joining the chat. I'm like, hey, I'm here. Let's go for a mission. It's not World of Warcraft. Make a camera that beats it already. And of course you can throw in my little lover horse into that conversation, ZVE1, which just copied it. So like we're not really changing the game, but it's so much cheaper and smaller and lighter and still better with more features. So like it changed the game again, but A7S III was the original game changer, OG. Little detour to the Huawei P40 Pro, a phone that completely changed my game at least. Not one damn soul even uses the phone, but I use it. No one was doing it. I just looked, I want a phone that does really fun slow motion. What does that? Nothing came even close to that phone. That was the champion. Others were doing like 960 interpolated garbage, whereas this did full real 960 as well as amazingly interpreted 7680 thousands of frames per second. It blew me away. It still has not been beat. Huawei themselves refuse to beat it. It will never be beat. If you like slow motion, there is not even close to a competitor. It's a pretty big sensor. Even the ultra wide cam has a decently big sensor. Good autofocus, terrible color science. It's a great phone and it will never leave my life. Now, I'm not some fanboy who's not willing to look at other people that I hate and see that, yeah, that's a pretty good thing. You have to give it to iPhone 15 Pro Max for actually having a natural look with Apple log. It's like, wow, not bad. People love that thing. You love it. I'm not some Apple shill bitch who would ever stoop to that level because you're allergic to anything beyond HD 240 frames per second. What the hell happened? The iPhone like 1 had that. Literally, the iPhone 6, I think, HD 240. Everything has been upgraded, and then it's still HD 240. What the hell is happening? Why isn't that moving? It needs to shoot right up there. Last couple products here. DJI Pocket 3. That's basically a Sony A7S III, but actually stable, with real stabe. It's stupid good. It's too good for our own good. Being that tiny, just like everything about it is just like, holy shit, that's a game changer. This hopefully will bring about change from other companies. We're not going to see bullshit like the Canon V10 ever again. So you have to compete with this now. These little ghetto-ass feet from Ulanzi. Affiliate links down below. As much as I try to hope and pretend that a mirrorless camera could do what this does for vlogging and be better, and there's a reason to bring this instead of... Not really, man. Like, even for vlogging, for sure, this kills anything. But even for slow motion street videography, this is more discreet, more stable. Even when it misses focus, it's focused on the background and everything's in focus anyway, and you still see the person that I wanted you to see. It just might not be that perfect separation, which is why you bring a mirrorless sometimes. The last product that changed any games for me was the Nikkor 600mm prime 26.3, and you can throw the 800mm 26.3 into this too. Wildlife primes are better than zooms. They just look better, they're lighter, more capable. That's what the pros use. No pro is out there with his freaking 200 to 600 on the Safari. Guy gets eaten by a lion. I've seen it happen. The primes are the stuff, but they're like $20,000 Canadian. So Nikon's the only one doing cheaper primes, full frame as well. I know Olympus has their 300mm 24. Nobody's using that. Nobody uses Olympus. Panasonic 200mm. It's a Leica, but it's only 200. It's that big. Those changed the game. That brought professional wildlife results to the consumer. It's still pretty damn pricey, if I'm gonna admit that. But if you get a deal, you find one used, it's somewhat questionable. That's not the word. Justifiable. I justified your mom. I know Fuji's coming with a 500mm 25.6. I can't wait to see it. I doubt you could latch on to a hamster being swallowed by an elephant with that autofocus. Like, what are you gonna... I don't know. If you manual focus only, you'll have Fuji magic. But you're not changing any games here. You change your underwear. Now, did I miss a bunch of potentially game-changing things? Yeah, the Zeiss Batis line of lenses. That was a game-changer. You got a Zeiss look on a clinical Sony. Without Zeiss, what are we even doing? Sony would be nothing. Even though most people don't even shoot on Zeiss, and that's why your footage should be sold to a mailman or something so we could deliver it to hell. Those Ulanzi quick release things that I'm using right now, I could just quickly take this off, put it on a backpack or on a bigger tripod. That three-way system that is not invented by Peak Design. You don't have everything. And then this little head that could go on any tripod, also with quick release. Ulanzi's changing some games. DaVinci Resolve, just the editing program that it's a one-time cost and better than Premiere Pro in most ways. It's like, that's a game changer. There's a lot of games being changed out there. But like we've talked, if you have any, post them down below and I'll delete your comment. But like I would be curious, what do you think changed the game? Like a serious game changer, not some like, oh, bro, filmmaking gear that you'll never believe. We don't believe you even have underwear. So I'll leave now. Do you agree that this lighting created depth, soul, and anger in my presentation today? Bitcoin technology can be thrown at me. After you subscribe from everybody else, Alec.